The Detroit Pistons returned to the playoffs. They gave the Knicks a hell of a rock fight, including without Isaiah Stewart, who was injured for most of that series. It's into the offseason for them now. I think all of us, although both of us hit their under preseason? Doesn't matter. We expect them to be better. Do we expect them to basically quintuple their win total? I'm being deliberately hyperbolic. And then really holding up the Knicks might not be the best barometer if you're looking to see how you fare against good teams, but that was a series. That very easily could have been a Pistons winning that series.
Absolutely.
No, the Pistons in 5, it could have basically been when you look at the margins. Mm-hmm. Now they go into the offseason, which I think, honestly, you're kind of exiting the honeymoon phase. And this is where it gets really hard. It's okay, you've improved a lot. How do you get even better without doing something that's deemed too rash and could backfire in your face? They're vitals. They could have over $20 million in cap space. However, that does not include a cap hold for Tim Hardaway Jr. or Malik Beasley, who's a non-bird free agent. They can only give him 120% raise off his current number. So if they're going to keep him, it's either a cap space thing or preferably, he only got $6 million this year. Do you think the non-taxpayer mid-level, so 14 will that be enough to keep him?
Normally, I would say no, based on the year that he had, but maybe in this year's free agent landscape, you're at least competitive, and he's going to know. Although maybe it's the type of thing where he's like, "Hey guys, I start now." If that's going to be the number, and maybe it's a 2+1 and it's not a full 3 year, something like that. I think it's possible. It's not. Well, what is it more likely than not that he's back, in your opinion? Because I think I lean towards it's more likely he's not back because someone somewhere might just, be willing to pay what Detroit can't handle.
Here's my issue with that. Who?
Right. That's the thing. I mean, Brooklyn's not going to do it.
There's Brooklyn and Detroit themselves are the temes that right now can carve out semi-significant cap space. Now, I guess if you're Malik Beasley and the Pistons are giving you 14 points, they're giving you the non-taxpayer mid-level. If you have other offers with teams that you think are going to be better or maybe give you a higher profile role, that gets interesting. That would in turn, though, does that force the Pistons to say, well, we are going to prioritize having cap space so that we can beat these other offers for Beasley.
Man, he's going to be a really good test of is the squeeze really on this summer or not?
Right. And I think he's going to stay, or I'll say this. I think he ends up at mid-level or less money. Yeah. And so he leaves. It's because it's not because the Pistons wouldn't pay him. It's because he wanted to leave. Mm-hmm. I really do think that the CBA is that damaging to the non-star.
Okay. You may be right. Can I ask you a macro question before, because
no, but thank you for asking. Let's move on.
Okay, it'll be a micro question, but I'll just think it's like a big micro question. And it's kind of overarching. So coming out of that series against the Knicks, questions answered, there were many, and most of them were about Cade Cunningham. Okay, he's the guy. We're good. That's hardest part handled. Check that box. In terms of no doubt core pieces to the next really good Pistons team, I'm willing to say Asar Thompson is in.
Tobias Harris.
I think strangely Tobias Harris is not among those that I would throw in there. Duren is he's coming closer and closer for me. And then Jaden Ivey's the hardest one because he wasn't involved and didn't play. And it will still be true 1,000 years from now that we're going to be I really wish the Pistons had a secondary creator that could, all that stuff. And maybe that's him. Other than Cade and Asar Thompson, I don't have anybody that I'm definitely we're set. Which is a weird place to be considering how good the Pistons were during the year and the fight they put up.
I'm with you. And I'm not to the point where it's because I don't think that Ivey and Duren should be locked in, or even Ron Holland should be locked in as core players, that they need to go out and trade them right now.
No, but they're extension eligible. Both of those guys are
Jaden Ivey. That's the thing. They're extension eligible. So you at least have to consider it, or you have to make sure. I mean, those negotiations might tell us how much faith the Pistons have in them. Yeah. Because I don't know what you're supposed to pay any of these guys. We have the bigger sample size with Duren now. If he comes in at $22 million a year, are you doing it? The max is 38.5 or whatever.
I think I probably would. So you're 4 for just under 100, basically, with the raises priced in.
Even if it's 4 for 100, are you doing it?
I mean, for Duren, yeah, I think I might, because that that's a percentage of the cap by the end of that deal. What are we talking about? Like, that's nothing for a guy that that is a starter now on a playoff team that you should still think has another like X% of growth given his age, right? Like, unless you're just, he's a lost cause. He's never going to be able to do the things he doesn't do now. I've been there on Duren. I don't know if I'm there right now.
Yeah, so his deal would be comparable to Nick Claxton's, although Nick Claxton's is declining. But Nick Claxton signed the 4-year, $97 million deal. And by the end of it, because of how they structured it, it's going to be worth 11% of the salary.
Yeah, so, I mean...
but you ratchet that up to like maybe 13 or 14 if it's flat, or if you go with raises, whatever. So I probably would do it at that number, but it's still a discussion, right? It's not just, I don't know. He's important enough to the Pistons to pay him that money. I don't know how movable that deal would be if you tried to trade it, a season from now when he's not poison pilled.
Right. And that has as much to do with like the type of player he is and the position he plays than the sheer percentage of the cap, where it's like, who's out, like we're a Jalen Duren away from whatever. Like that's a hard thing.
When it comes to Jaden Ivey, I don't even know how you sign him to an extension unless he's going to undercut his own market, because I don't know what you pay him.
If he does extend, the Pistons will have gotten a team friendly deal, I think. Just because like they should not, they can't do anything like a market or above market based on the injury, based on the uncertainty of like, is he like the best version of the Pistons in 2 years? Like is Ivey, he's probably not, is he starting? Is he in the 8-man rotation? I don't know. It's hard to say right now.
And I think unless you just believe they're going to let Malik Beasley walk or that he's gone, trade will be the vehicle through which they make them. They'll have the mid-level, and then they'll be able to make trades. They control all of their first round picks after this year. Their 2025 pick is headed to Minnesota. What I think the question here is twofold. What are their biggest needs, and how aggressive should they be about going to address them? And by that, I mean, I think you could say their biggest needs are like, okay, the secondary creator. We talked. Dennis Schroeder's a free agent here, by the way, too. That's not included in the cap space projection. They could use a secondary creator type. You also would still like a bankable floor spacing, like a two-way wing. Because like a Star Thompson can be two-way, and so can Ron Holland his own way, but those guys aren't hitting jumpers.
No.
And Malik Beasley, he tried defensively this year, but it's just, so you want that. Do you want a different type of look up front at all? Are you okay with Duren and Stewart? But I think like those are kind of the things you laser in on. And what I mean by how aggressive should they be, it's, well, are you trying to see if you can plug a lot of them from within, or maybe just using the mid-level, or are you taking to the trade market, dangling first-round picks and some salary, maybe one of your young players, and looking at what that gets you? And by that, I don't mean, if they got involved in like the Devin Booker or Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes, I would love either one of those two players here. I ultimately don't think that they would go that direction, even if both of those players become available.
Yeah. Is this a Cam Johnson team?
Ooh, he'd be interesting here. Does he do enough like defensively because that probably cost you 2 first-round picks, unless the Nets, like, you giving Jaden Ivey and a first-round pick for Cam Johnson? I'd probably do it.
Yeah, I think I'd do it too. And like, you didn't think Tobias Harris was going to give you much on defense prior to that Knicks series, and turns out he did. If Cam Johnson's just like kind of your younger Tobias Harris, minus like some of the individual creation stuff. But yeah, I think the secondary creator, it's just, until they get some, like Schroeder was very important for this team, like, and that's not, Schroeder is a guy that like clearly didn't fit in Golden State, but can handle this level of job for the right kind of team, where he really is just like running pick and rolls, and like isn't in a bunch of read and react system type of environments. So someone like that, ideally maybe with a little more size. And then, yeah, I don't have an issue with the big man rotation, assuming Stewart can be healthy and maybe get back to hitting outside shots. That would, I mean, if he
taking them,
if you had that, I'm good with the center spot. Like I'd be willing to check out Duren for another year or two on an extension, and then, or longer than that. And
I don't know, man. I'm just gonna say they would be. I don't know how aggressive they would need to be, whether it's they create cap space and sign them, or it's a sign and trade. They'd be a really fun Naz Reid destination.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, because he's giving you the offense that you really, really want from Stewart, and then some. Is Stewart a trade candidate? Because if you go extend Duren, and then Stewart's like got a decent number after that extension that he signed, And like you could imagine a team talking themselves into like, I think he could start for us. I think maybe the shot is actually there. And I think defensively there might be enough. Like you could see him having enough value to another team to where Detroit's like, yeah, we can use him to get 2 or 3 other, gaps filled that we have in our rotation.
Yeah, and it might save you on the pick equity where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the matching salary we're including has standalone value in
Yeah.
itself. Yeah, I could see that. And then it's, in theory, it's easier to just approximate backup big man value on the cheap than it would be, we need a secondary creator for $5 million a year or something like that.
Right. And it's hard to know which way this cuts, but because I think Stewart is fairly important to the sort of the identity that the Pistons have carved out for themselves. Like, we're incredibly tough. We will fight you. That's like not an issue for us. Do you value that a lot as the Pistons, or do you maybe want to like, we already have Ron Holland that's ready to fight. Like, we could probably do with that without one more agitator. So it's like moving Stewart actually has the benefit of like, okay, we're going to be a little like more chill and like that kind of thing. You might want him out of the locker room. I don't know. But then again, maybe the Pistons are like, no, he's the guy that like got us to play this way. I don't know.
He's definitely not untouchable, but I'd be curious to know like how if you trust Jalen Duren to play eventually 30 plus minutes a night.
It'd be a big vote of confidence in him, which maybe they're not ready to make.
Yeah. I'm curious. I do think what feels like the most likely scenario is they operate as an over the cap team, bring back Beasley, and with their exception, and then maybe they bring back even Schroeder since he'll be easy to keep with the bird rights that he has, and then kind of like maybe they make a trade. Like I do expect them to do anything, like to react to this season in a way that says not that they would punt on development entirely, but one of the young kids is gone as well as first. Like they went not all in, but they went in on a trade.
I mean, I think on the one hand, I do think you like you said, the windows are short. Like it's not, I mean, Houston's in the same position to some extent, maybe even further along where it's like, okay, now, I think but I don't think anything. So like Ivey, maybe in terms of like who they might like pry off of the core.
Yeah.
Stewart, maybe, even though I don't even know that I'd put him quite in that same group. I guess you probably have to. He's not like, it's not like he's, 30 years old. But yeah, I don't think it goes beyond that. Just because like you're not trading Thompson. Cade's just the franchise now. Duren, I don't think the major, the guys I mentioned as like definite core or possible core are going anywhere. I don't think.
And I do think there might be people who are important if they don't try and like hit the turbo acceleration button here. I think in this case, kind of similar to what Houston did last year into this year, I actually believe that it's smarter, or it's at least safer to like, well, let's see how good we really are with most of this group intact. We can reevaluate at the deadline, or we can reevaluate in the 2026 offseason. You're not, as you mentioned, windows close in the NBA very quickly. Theirs isn't fully open yet. And so I don't need to know that they worry. All their most important players are under team control. They're still super flexible. So I think that's the smart course to go. But it is tempting after watching the way that they played against the Knicks. Like, no, just go out and get like would you do? I don't know what the math would have to be here. Maybe they have some cap flexibility with it, but like if it doesn't cost you picks, like just go get CJ McCollum and add this as like okay, that really super. But again, with that, you're kind of saying, oh, we're not super confident in the Jaden Ivey experience then.
Well, yeah, which, I wouldn't blame him. I think like just the fact that like Cade right now is better than anyone on the Rockets, for example, right? So like just I
thought you were about to say, and I thought you said anyone on the roster at first. And I was like, hot take, but sure.
Well, just to use the Rockets comparison, because we keep bringing it up, and like I think you probably put him over Paolo in Orlando, just to continue going down the list of like, all right, are they maybe there? Like they got so the fact that Cade is at that level, and like, I think that if you are going to go like get a little bit irrational or a little bit over aggressive, I think in some ways it's easier to justify it for the Pistons. Cause you have a guy that's like, I don't know, if we're redoing all NBA right now and we're including like what we learned in the playoffs, like he's not moving down our list,
Do you know what would be interesting if they, speaking of the Rockets, they end up declining Fred VanVleet's team option? He'd be interesting in Detroit.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's a good like Schroeder replacement / upgrade maybe I think he's an interesting piece. I like him better than McCollum.
I'm also trying to think of like higher end or highish end options that wouldn't force you to mortgage everything. They would. I mean, it could be wonky, but like they would kind of be a fun Zion destination.
Oh man.
Just as like a flyer on him. And again, I'm not giving up where it's all the young players, all the picks. But if New Orleans ends up moving him where it's like if it took Jaden Ivey in a pick or something, like you would have to do it, right?
Yeah, you would. Then because then we revert to like I think Cade's probably better as like a secondary guy, which was like the narrative on him for for up until this year, basically.
Well, because Fred VanVleet is different and Zion is probably at the nadir or close to it of his value. You're not going after like, or maybe you would, a LaMelo Ball if he becomes available. You're not committing that type of resource. Would the middle ground be like, if the Bulls make Kobe White available, is that someone you're interested in pairing with Cade?
Yes, definitely. I'm on board with that. Especially since like whatever defensive concerns you have about him are mitigated by Cade is capable of being an awesome defender, we've learned. And then you have Thompson, and then you have Holland too on deck potentially. So you can onboard like, I don't know, if you just want to get real weird and let's exchange like up and coming team players, like could Jalen Green be the guy that you want next to Cade? Like someone like that that's just maybe you get a little bit of Beasley plus Schroeder in him and then some. Like I don't know.
Man, Ty Jerome, free agent, could be interesting if you trust Cade that much defensively.
Yeah. Ty Jerome's starting.
Well, I mean, and even if it's not, I think that they could carve it. I mean, what's interesting about Schroeder is even when he's not been his most efficient or his best self, you just provide Cade Cunningham with in-game breaks where he's not on the bench, but he's off the ball. Yeah. And that to me is really valuable. Like even, I don't know how much he would play, but like Lonzo from Chicago, like that'd be fun as hell in Detroit.
And credit to Schroeder too. Like he's sort of perfect for the role he's in a lot of ways. Cause like all he wants to do is like give everybody else a break and like go like that is his hard wiring is like, oh, pick and roll, let's go. Or just like, I'm going to ISO some, but like, that's what he does well and what he wants to do. So it's like the perfect situation for him. And it has to be next to someone as good as Cade so that he doesn't like get into the Brooklyn mode of like, it's my show, like that. I really do hope they keep him the more we talk about it. Cause I think he makes a ton of sense there.
I also hope they keep him because I think it would signal that they're not. I mean, we're talking about trades, and if you told me they gave up a young player, non-Asar Thompson division, plus a first-round pick in a trade, unless the return is just terrible, I will likely be okay with them being that aggressive. But I want more information on this team. And the Jaden Ivey injury, like, really kind of it just muddies like how you're trying to like look at this team through the future. So I think they're really good. They have a ton of optionality. But I don't think it's time for them to hit like the accelerator just
right. Yet. And plus, like, forget the roster. Once JB Bickerstaff reaches his cap, they can just replace him with Kenny Atkinson, and then they'll win like 60
games. The natural cycle of events, right?
Yeah, it's the life cycle of the NBA. All right, thanks everybody for listening, for watching. Make sure you've rated, reviewed, subscribed, 5 stars, many thumbs up. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave some comments there. Let us know what your thoughts are. Join our Discord. Links for that in the YouTube and podcast description. We close as always with a shout to Frank Ntilikina and an apology to Jarrett Allen.